All right, good afternoon, everybody. We'll officially call this meeting to order. I will start it off. First item on the agenda is to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which we traditionally do, if you don't mind. We'll start off with that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so the first order of business is for the committee to elect officers, even though it will be a short-lived position as goes with the annual year, the calendar year. So I don't foresee any more meetings in the rest of the year, but nonetheless, it's required.
I like Mel. I nominate Mel.
So who's the current
Mel is the
chair?
current.
Mayor is the current chair there.
From last year.
I think I got appointed in.
I think you did as well.
You did.
Yeah, I think you did, yes.
I second that motion.
I'll be happy to do it if that's committed with been there for a while.
Want to vote on that? Committee members?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, then I'll step in that role. Thank you all for your confidence. I think, the next order of business is, the vice chairman. We previously, last year, nominated, Mr. Pullen. Apparently attendance is not required because I wasn't here, but I got to be the chairman. So I'd open a floor for nominations for vice chair of the, Savannah Ag Forest District Committee.
I'll make a motion to keep Andrew as vice chair.
I have a motion, a nomination, Mr. Pullen, I have a second for that. Are there other nominations? Anyone can be nominated? Saying none. Then we'll close the floor on that. All in favor of Mr. Pullen serving as the vice chair? Fair committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, one thing we didn't do, Jason, I think you probably know it, but if you wanna, I'd ask real briefly, call roll, see who we have here, who we don't.
Yes, you're absolutely right, sir. All right, so we'll start with you, Mr. Chair, and
Here,
Mr. Fairchild.
Here.
Mr. Hodge.
Present. Your man.
I'm sorry, I do not know your name off the top of my head.
My name is Laura Lee.
This is Laura Lee.
Thank you.
Mr. Emhoff.
Here.
what kind of numbers on the number?
Kilpatrick, I know that one. Just give me a second.
Kathleen.
Okay. Excellent. Everybody who said they were coming.
Okay, now, I'm just confirming, we have some members' names we didn't call, but they were removed because of they timed out, right?
Right, correct.
I apologize, but, so Mr. McGee was, timed out, and Ms. Murdoch. The only person that we would anticipate to be here that couldn't be was Mr. Pullen, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Mr. McGee is a member, but was had another meeting scheduled today.
okay, but he's still on the committee.
He's still on the committee,
Oh, okay,
correct.
that'll be,
Okay,
so, stand
I believe
corrected.
that's the current list.
Yeah, that,
And I apologize,
this was the 22 meeting list. I just wanted to make sure I'm.
our secretary is out today, and so that would have been something, and I didn't find out until shortly, a little while ago, so.
With the recording, we can catch that up. Okay, so we have a quorum. We are more than prepared to move forward. And thank everyone for being here. Apologize, I wasn't here at the meeting in 22, so I'm Bill. I don't know.
Mark Imhoff, yeah, it's my first meeting,
So
so.
welcome.
Thank
Nice to have you on the committee. We appreciate you. We generally try to meet mid-afternoon, but we don't tie staff up, and it works for everybody else pretty well, so tie them up in the evening, and that's early. So then let's jump on to the secretary for our committee. We had Ms. Porter
Agreed.
And Ms. Porter Valencia is not here today, but she has served as our secretary. She's a staff member, works with Jason if you haven't had a chance to meet her. So I guess we need to open the floor. But I have any nominations for the position of secretary for 2023. Ms. Porter, good job. I think Mr. Hodge nominated Ms. Porter, but I think that's what you did, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I did. You second that, Mr. Fairchild?
I do.
Oh, well, bless your heart. Any other nominations for secretary? Then I move the nomination to be closed and, all in favor of Ms. Porter serve as secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no, make it really loud because I'm probably not gonna hear it, all right. So Felicia has been doing this a while. She's really good. Jason.
That's why we're recording this, meeting
Yeah,
for
got
her.
it. All right, so I thought you were trying to.
She may be
avoid
listening.
Not being here. That brings us up to the minutes, which, Mr. Oshry is kind enough to provide to us that are on the committee. The minutes were from September the 20th, 2022. And I'm certainly not gonna read them, but I'd entertain, any corrections or additions, none.
Move we adopt the minutes of the
Have a
September
motion to
2022.
approve. Do I have a second? Ms. Kilpatrick?
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No, okay, the minutes are so approved. We'll move on to why we are here. Let me just say thank y'all to the citizens that have taken the time to go to the trouble to propose a new ag forestry district. Take some time for that to be done. And it's no small commitment. So, I'm sure y'all have looked at it and know exactly what it entails, the benefits of it, as well as, the length, et cetera. So it's been a while since we've actually approved one. We've had some that have sort of gone by the wayside, or they timed out basically, because once you're in it, you have to be removed by request. You can be you can continue to have it recycled as long as you choose not to tell us you want to come out of ag forestry district. But I could talk to some of the benefits. Don't need to. I'm sure y'all looked at it carefully. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Overstreet and see if he'll give us a staff report and kind of cover
Absolutely.
that. And at the end of that, I'd open it up to the landowners that might want to say anything. But Mr. Overstreet, if you'd be so kind.
Certainly. So we received this request for the creation of a new Ag 4 district to be named Point Lee / Nahor, which consists of 3 parcels, 404 acres, which meets the requirement. 200 acres are required to be in the core, contiguous acres. They don't have to be in one parcel. It can be multiple as long as they're contiguous. Checks that box. It's in the rural residential planning area. And the applicants have proposed a 10-year review period. So they're able to propose 4 10 years during the creation of the district, and they proposed 10, which is pretty standard. So the conditions to the creation, there are several. I don't know if you want to go through all those or not. It's up to you folks.
Any of the committee members have questions that you'd like to ask with regard to the conditions that are imposed? I mean, we certainly don't want to brush by them, but I don't want to belabor it. We've looked at them before. If you could just hit the highlights, maybe anything you think it might be, bring it out.
Sure.
That move us along without.
I will
getting bogged
indeed.
down.
1 second. and-
We are aware of the conditions.
Yeah, I thought probably as much. It's long enough here. Yeah, so in just following the order, we'll hit the top couple really quick. So first of all, you'll note that all 3 of the parcels participate in the land use valuation program through the Commissioner of Revenue's office. And in order to do that, you have to provide an signed affidavit that you are, what you're using the land for is indeed what's happening there. So that seems to indicate that, because of that, as agriculture, it's a conservation program. Because of that, it seems to perfectly fit the district, the requirements of it, or the purpose of the district, conservation, serve land. So that was the first thing we looked at. Also, this land has been designated, it's not considered prime farmland by the USDA, but it's been designated as land of significant value, which is yet another reason to consider it for its approval and as an agricultural forestall district.
And that's through the Commonwealth.
That is through the state of, that's through the USDA.
Oh.
It's Natural Resources Conservation Service, NRC. It's designated as such. It's based on soils when they did it. And what, like I said, while it's not considered prime farmland, it's considered land of important value based on the soil classification, soil type. Don't ask me what those are. I cannot tell you. I'm still trying to look at those codes, exactly what those different soil
And I
classifications
can tell
are.
you there's several, but there are three forestal primarily. And for agricultural, there are 8, and they go from everything from very poor to excellent. And excellent might be, river bottom land, and, very poor might be, we don't have any very poor, and it might be like a desert property if we were in Oklahoma. So they just have gone through and rated the categories based on what they believe to be the potential from excellent to good, very good to fair to poor, very poor, and so you get the idea. There's an organization out of Virginia Tech, and it's called the State Land Advisory Committee. A weird acronym is called SLEAC, and SLEAC is who works with the Virginia Tech board to assign values associated. It doesn't change. You can appreciate without something significant to change the assigned value of the quality of the land, that land continues to be about the same for decades on top of decades on top of decades. So, but there are maps that have it broken down based on those soil characteristics is what it really comes down to. I'm sorry, Jason, if you'd let me.
Oh, you're fine now. Absolutely. Thank you. So there's 7 criteria that are listed, that are provided through the state code, which we use exactly from the state, and that was one of them, and they're all included in the staff report. There's several other, I think that probably the most important one, other than the first one, bringing the land being and land use already, is that there's pressure to growth for growth as in the county is continuing. This area is not necessarily a high growth area, but it certainly is close to one, as we all know. And looking at the comprehensive plan, one of the goals of the comprehensive plan, primary goals for the people of the state is to keep the county rural, and putting land into an agricultural forest district should help to continue the rural nature of this land. So what it says is that agricultural lands provide economic value and contribute to the unique character of the county. And the challenge of preserving this valuable land use is the fact that the land suitable for agricultural use is also suitable for development. So while this doesn't stop development, it certainly affects it. Primarily is not being able to create a parcel less than 22 acres if you were to subdivide the land, unless it's a family subdivision, which is allowed by right in AFD, a 2 acres subdivision. That's not to say that can't be overridden by a court of law if something were to occur. So those are the primary reasons or criteria. One other thing to mention, and I put this in a slide. Let me pull this up. So these are you should probably look at the parcels if you haven't seen them. That's just a quick map that shows that was included in the staff report as well. The 3 parcels you can see are all contiguous, right near Ruritan Lake to the south there, and right near the county boundary. And of course, Lake Monticello is just slightly off, about a mile or so to the northeast there. Listing the parcels broken down by acreage here as well. Aerial image of the parcels, which are, by the way, being currently used for timber, cattle grazing, and hay. The state on the application. So this is the one which shows. So I included this because it, one of the criteria is to look at the surrounding land, what kind of impact it may have either in favor of or in opposition to the creation of a district. You can see there's a significant amount of land is in a concert, or 3 parcels are in conservation easement that would be adjacent to the county. So by creating this potential district, you'd really have a huge area of protected land, conserved land, some through conservation easements, which are very, very restrictive, but also really hard to develop. Yes, sir.
Impossible to develop.
Well, yes, well.
And being a member
Not
of
quite.
the agricultural,
Look like somebody's been a secretary of natural resources.
being a member of the agricultural district, one can still donate the land into.
Into a conservation, absolutely, you could be in both. We have a couple that are in both. I didn't think to include that map. That would have been actually great information to share with the committee. If necessary, I can produce that. And maybe that would be something beneficial for the planning commission to see. I have created that. Mr. McGee actually asked for that a couple of years ago, that he wanted to see the land that was in both. So I did a map that shows land and conservation easements and AFDs as well.
Also, it says adjacent landowners to the district may be restricted from developing land uses which are not permitted by right or which are in conflict with adjacent agricultural or forestal uses. For example, if a rezoning or special use permit is requested for a parcel adjacent to a district, the planning commission and board of supervisors must, is the word used, consider the existence of the district in the decision.
Right, absolutely. I'm not 100% clear that that's always been a determined or a factor that's been considered, but should be. Absolutely right.
And the nice thing about it, 2 points Ms. Marsh makes. One says they may consider it, but it also goes back to the planning commission and board must consider it. It doesn't say they must vote against it, but they must consider it by virtue of it being there. We've had that come up. I could give you some examples, and it's certainly influential. It was brought up earlier. I just made a little quick note here and mentioned about thanking y'all. Honestly, the only thing keeping Fluvanna rural anymore is the fact that we have these land use programs. Most restrictive is conservation easement, and by its very nature, most of them are absolutely permanent in perpetuity. The Outdoor Foundation we're most familiar with. Fluvanna County is an easement holder, or can be. Ravenna Conservation Society. I could go on. Some of them, but almost very few of them, will let you buy yourself out, but it's not easy. You know, they will let you, if you've got 50 acres that Ducks Unlimited would really love to have in a conservation easement, you got 75 over here that's in an easement, they might swap you, but that rarely happens. It's
I should hope that won't happen.
well, I can't control what.
Yes, I know, there are already inquiries being made about what you just put up there,
Well, they,
those 3 easements. About swapping,
But by and large,
and I'm not going to allow it.
well, by and large, the Outdoor Foundation, if that's who is the largest easement holder.
No, sir, this is Virginia Conservation easement.
Well, but.
Who's the
Outdoor
holder?
Foundation,
I think what the
Yes.
chairman is getting.
when they say in perpetuity, they mean it. We've had several cases in Fluvanna where people have had, very compelling reasons to possibly. When they say it's a permanent easement, it's a permanent easement. They don't let you out. And we've had some that have asked, and the answer is always no, it is in perpetuity. So conservation, my only point in conservation easements by their nature are designed to be permanent.
Right.
Ag forestal is the next most inclusive thing, and they're anywhere for up to 10 years. So this is a commitment on y'all's part to not develop your property or have more intensive usage for 10 years. And that's really good for the county, in my opinion, while we still got trees and grass. And then one of the other large components is the land use program, which is annually. You know, you can be in this year, but not next year. And so those three things collectively are what keep us rural. And one is, they're progressively less restrictive, but, so again, I make the point. Thank y'all for doing this, because this will effectively commit your property for the 10-year period, and hopefully beyond if you renew it. But it requires the board and the planning commission to take the presence of this ag forestal district into consideration. And considering other properties around it for more intensive uses. And so sometimes that has been very important, and they've had one or two times when it did not, they considered it, but they didn't act on it in that regard. So there you go. Those are the three things that keep us rural. Yes, ma'am.
Just
Go
a
ahead.
point of information, with the state-held conservation easements, well, no, you can't, vacate the easement. There are provisions for what we call diversion conversion, which is in connection usually with a public project. And if, for example, VDOT were to come along, it would be required to provide offsetting property of equal financial value and greater conservation value. So they're
But
pretty
in a different
strong.
location, and that's my
I
problem.
agree with you. And
That
there
is
was,
under conservation easement.
yes,
It should never be allowed to be swapped.
I agree. And we've had some cases, my involvement has been with historic resources. And the Department of Historic Resources runs a very active easement program, hold easements on Glen Burnie, on Bremo, on a number of large projects.
It's by far
And-
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, our policy position has always been, this is what this property owner donated for this easement. So there isn't an equivalent. You
Exactly.
can't really swap
It
it out.
is unique.
But that's not a policy that other purely conservation holders necessarily have.
If the Virginia Outdoors Foundation, which is the Virginia component of conservation easements, has it, it's gonna be in perpetuity. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And they have a lot
that's
of,
who Peter's property is
I think
in, isn't it? I think it's VOF.
Yeah. They have a lot more land in Fluvanna than you're aware of, which I think is a good thing, because all that land is green. Conservation easements are not templated, they can be designed, they're pretty unique depending upon the landowner that originally put it in to the easement. Some of them are for an extended period of time. I've got one that's 1,200 acres. It's for a 500-year, it's even got a 500-year prohibition against timber harvesting. The easement's forever, but you can also design stuff like timber harvesting and gardening. One of them says absolutely no vehicle traffic, period. Now, I don't mean to bog down, it's just, they are keeping us, in addition to ag forestal, they are keeping us green, and land use keeps us green year to year, because it saves the landowner from having to pay a lot more taxes than they otherwise would if they subdivided. So,
So we just recently completed our last update cycle of the AFDs, the existing ones review period. So there won't be in the next review period that started in 2029. And we lost a little bit of acreage, but not much. This will probably actually increase the overall acreage in AFDs if this is ultimately approved.
I would love to see the board of supervisors use this as a handle not to allow some of the rezoning, but they must consider it. Doesn't mean they have to, not act, but they have to consider it.
You raised an interesting point, because I've been at a board of supervisors meeting for other reasons and seen the board act on or consider a project that involved one of the districts, and I came to the podium and asked our then attorney whether it should have come first to this committee for guidance, and he said, yes,
That's correct. You're
Oh.
absolutely right.
but I haven't seen them
And
come
well,
to us. It's a
Let's
procedure.
say we've had requests of individuals that had land in ag forestal districts to come and, again, if they want to subdivide a piece off that's 22 acres or more, they can do that by right, correct me if I'm wrong.
They can, but it remains in the AFD.
But it stays in the AFD, but they can do it. In other words, Ms. Marsh wouldn't have to come ask anybody if they can give 22 acres or larger of this tract to a family member or sell it.
Sure,
And it could be
But-
built on?
It could be built on, is my understanding, yes.
Residential, right?
Yeah.
One unit, but anything less than 22 acres, and that's what we've had. We've had a number of people that were in ag forestry districts that came in and said, my circumstances have
Sure.
changed. I need to be able to cut off 4 acres and build a house for my family. And if there are requests to subdivide or take an acreage of less than 22 acres of your property and give it a more intensive use, put a house on it. That's an involved process because of the applicant, let's say, the Marxists said, we gotta cut 4 acres off and give to a family member. Or their house burnt down and they wanted to build a new one, but so the long story short, in order to do anything less than 22 acres, they have to make the application to the planning commission, which then calls this committee together. We hear it and we make a recommendation. In fact, it goes to the board, to the planning commission, to us. We hear it and then we send it back to the planning commission with a recommendation to approve or disapprove, and the planning commission acts on it, sends it to the board. It's about a 5-month process. It comes to the board, to the planning commission, to us, so.
And
there's
public
no-
hearings are required to planning
yeah,
commission.
There's no easy task.
yeah.
And that's what we did last year.
Yeah,
It's in the minutes, because we took it off
Yeah.
of Mr. Hayslip
Yeah.
to 8 acres.
and so it can be done, but it's a involved process. It takes about 5 or 6 months and they're planning their public hearings on each one of them,
Yeah.
so it, again, thank you, because
Yeah.
this may help preserve some agricultural, some open land up there at the lake. Mr. Overstreet, I don't want.
Well, I think you pretty much covered everything,
Got
Mr.
it.
Sheridan.
Let's open it to the landowners then, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Would any of y'all like to speak to the application? Happy to have y'all speak.
Well,
I'm-
I appreciate that summary, because that's my first time here, that really is educational, I appreciate it, yeah.
Well, it wasn't my intent to take the conversation, but it is kind of helpful to know some of the history and about everything that you can do for ag forestal districts that we have done in one time or another. So, one of the things that's unique about ag forestal, I'll tell you, one of the little known advantages, land use is a local option that could be pulled if the board of supervisors, Mr. Fairchild and company act on that.
And
And-
rescinded it, then
And it was
It still
approved
stays
many,
then.
many years ago when it was, I was probably over 50 years ago, that program went into place. It can be very different from one county to the next. And I'll give you an example. Buckingham doesn't have land use on forested land. Sullivan has forested and agriculture, and we have open space component of that too. So to take advantage of this, the tax break and the tax incentive is a better word for land use. You have to apply for a land use program. So if you're in ag forestal and don't apply for land use, you can't get the tax incentive you gotta do. But if the board ever saw fit to eliminate land use, which could be done with a vote of the board, it could be taken away, it could be given back, it's a local option, decision. If you're an ag forestal district and land use were to be taken off the table for the county, you would continue to get land use, until that ag forestal district terminated. And so it's kind of a nice little safety net, is what I like to call it. In addition to hopefully slowing down a little of the growth.
And they have to be contiguous, right?
Yes.
The parcel,
Yeah.
actually, no, the parcels you have to have a 200-acre core. And that can be made up of multiple pieces of land.
Those have to
but
be contiguous.
Those
The
have to be-
200 have to be contiguous.
That's correct. But let's say we have 3 pieces of land like we do here that are 400 acres, that's the core. If you are within a linear mile of that, any point of it, not by road, but linear mile, then you can, as little as 1 acre can be added to that ag forestal core. So it does not, the core has to be contiguous, but the additional parcels, and many have been added in by being within 1 mile as crow flies.
And that's how the Joan White that's how you ended up talking to her, I think, like.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
I really like what Albemarle County does, because I think this has happened in Fluvanna. Is if a piece of land is in an ag forestal district and it's taken out, Albemarle County regards that as a ghost district. I mean, as a ghost piece of land. So if you're more than one, now somebody took their land out and you're now more than 1 mile away and you can't be in the ag forestal district. In Albemarle you can. So that when that happens, and I believe it happened the last meeting I was at, that somebody broke up an ag forestal district. And then anybody that wasn't then within a mile lost their ability to be in, whereas in Albemarle they say, well, that was there, it's taken out, but we regard that as a kind of,
Well,
yeah.
good for them, I guess they didn't read their state code section 16 there.
But let's not be picky.
I'm not gonna call it.
That's what they do, and they
Yes, ma'am.
say they're whatever legal, their lawyer or whatever, says that they can do that.
These 3 programs, conservation, easements, ag forestal, and land use, have really been the solid backbone of rural preservation for our county. It's pretty extensive if you look at it. It by no means covers the whole county, but pretty extensive. So
And I
other
think-
questions?
And I think that it's really important in our end of the county with
Yes.
everything that's been happening, that a message is sent. Enough is enough.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all forgive me, Ms. Martin, I go back a long way. I think your first year teaching school, I was in her class, so I'm just used to saying yes, ma'am.
So other people, landowners that are within a mile of this district will have a chance to join it up until the BOS votes.
Yeah.
And are allowed to join it even after it's approved with an additional fee of $500.
Correct.
And they
It has
can
to go
do
back through the
that
process.
as a grouping.
Correct.
Yes.
And
A
you still have to
single
go through the same process
application
we're
of
going through
multiple
now.
ownership within 1 mile by the crow.
By the way, the crow flies.
Well, it has to be within a mile.
Yeah, that's.
Of the core.
State
Oh,
code.
no, you can chain it.
Right, you can chain it, absolutely.
You
So
can chain it right down to Bremo Bluff.
as long as you're within a mile of a district, of a parcel that's within a mile of the core.
So what was it? Again, if you're within a mile and then I'm a half mile beyond you and then someone else, so you can daisy chain that together.
Right.
It's and he's exactly right. If you made an application for your property alone, it's a fee involved.
Right.
But if you and 6 other landowners made an application collectively, it's 1 fee. I think I'm correct in that.
And what's the minimum parcel size joint? 1 acre.
Oh, if they're, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
And it could be somebody's 1 acre lot that they have their house on, right?
I can't remember.
Well, you would have to evaluate it using the same criteria.
I'm aware of 2 acre lots with that residence
Yeah.
that have been added to.
There are a few, yes, sir.
I would simply refer to Mr. Overstreet for staff review.
And would they get the tax incentive also on the
Uh,
land portion, but not the
no,
building?
No.
Because you only get the tax incentive if you're in land use program.
Okay.
And the house and at least first 2 acres are excluded, so the dwelling in the house.
Then you need 5 after that, right?
For land
No,
use,
land
at least 5. 5 for agricultural, so you have to have an agricultural application. Or if you have, your house is, your property's forested, you need 20 acres of forestry. But a third component of land use, which is a really nice component, is called open space. And that's 10 acres. So let's say you had the perfect 12-acre lot or bigger. Your house in first 2 acres, I keep saying first 2 acres because by design of the Board of Supervisors 100 years ago, could be changed. Blue Banner's house site minimum acreage is 2 acres. You can't build a house unless it's a grandfather piece on less than 2 acres. Some counties are as little as an acre. Louisa does the best. Frequently here, Louisa does things better than you do, but that one I think they get wrong because they got right down the road. But, so you got that 12-acre piece, you could put, in quite a bit of properties in the land use program by way of open space. And the only commitment is a landowner saying, I agree not to change the use of the property and make it more intensive. I'm not gonna subdivide it or upzone the property to be for a period of time. It's contracted, much like this. And we do it for up to 15 years. And so you don't have to farm it, you don't have to forester it. It can be it can be a swamp just as long as it's acreage. It's 10 acres or more. And you make an application and you are then given the tax incentive, or the reduced tax incentive for the length of that contract. And that's a real nice component of land use because not everybody farms, regular fuel is still everything bigger than, lawn tractor, but it can be in land use for 10 acres or more and just let the land, be natural. I like it a lot. It's getting to be more popular because some counties, sorry to bore y'all with what some counties do. Some of them, you gotta have X number of livestock. You have to generate a revenue, you have to show, sets landowners up to basically mislead the commissioner's office by saying that you must show a minimum of $1,000 of profit on the production of something, hay, crop. And so what happens is I talk to my neighbor and they go, I'll give you a letter, you did $1,000 worth of work for me and I did for you. It's just, it's very convoluted. We're clean. We just say, you have to have some agriculture, but land use, there is no requirement for any usage of the land, ag or forestry, just don't develop it, what it really boils down to. Are there other questions? I know y'all tired of hearing me talk.
Couple of questions for up there. So the ones with the green lines, or what is
Those are the AFDs.
the other, and then the others are preservation.
They're the conservation,
Conservation.
right? Like some of them, you can't really tell from the scale, but
That
Well,
one
like
you
that's
just,
Bremo Plantation.
that one you were just
Right?
pointing at,
Mhm.
Jason, down in the corner, right down there by, come on back down to the corner.
I'm not
Come
quite
on.
sure what's happening there, but I haven't
Oh, it's not.
updating,
Well, to give you a perspective, the one down in the corner down there where it's Cumberland, Buckingham, that's 1,200 acres.
this one, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's 1,200 acres, that big parcel, and those adjacent ones that we run up the James, that's a couple thousand acres of what it is. And so to give you a perspective when you see that, and those are with the Virginia Outdoor Foundation, they are forever easements.
That's Bremo, right? So the big one, is that the that's the largest in Fluvanna, is it?
It is the largest single parcel, collectively, it's
Cluster.
is third grade and then have it in there. It's all public information. I couldn't tell you,
Yeah.
I wouldn't discuss it, but The reason I like it is we've had a number of them have changed ownership, you know, because you go,
Sure.
one owner puts it into an easement or in an ag forestal district, y'all may put it in, but I can imagine it happening, but you transfer your property, you sell it or whatever. Before that the ag forestal district runs with the land, you know, so regardless of who owns it, for the length of the district, it's associated with land. Easements run with the land and they are never relaxed.
And that is the case with the Peters easement.
That's exactly
Peters
right.
did not put that in.
And,
Oh, it was before him.
yeah.
Barbara and Tommy Riggs.
Oh,
Mhm. And so we've had a number of easements that have changed hands, some of them I'm aware of twice by now. The original owner gets the tax incentive. And there's pretty appreciable tax incentives. And then there is a tax incentive from the county. I won't belabor it unless y'all really want to know. But once that ownership is transferred, then, you know, the only tax incentive then is it continues to get the land use rate.
Yeah, taxes are nothing.
Which is, you know, it's very, yeah, it's,
So on that map, what are the green is the.
ag forestal districts.
And the check, and the dotted ones are.
Conservation.
Conservation.
Okay.
So what Jason has shown, which is a really nice, I had seen the overlay. Dotted ones are permanent. And the green ones have a time limit up to 10 years. And his office tracks the renewal of those. If these folks at the end, he'll notify them about 6 months out, give or take, when it's gonna expire, and you have to contact his office to say, we do not want to renew. If you choose not to notify, it's automatically renewed. So silence is consent, which,
That's good.
and,
We're gonna review that, just as a.
I'm not sure,
Yeah,
I like it, but.
yeah.
Oh, really?
It's been
For reading through that, I'm not sure that's a,
It's been a few folks.
Accurate.
Usually if the landowners change hands,
the procedure.
the second generation.
Yeah,
Other questions? I know we're sitting here belaboring this. I'll talk all day on land use if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but, I'm not able to interact with the screen up there at all. It
you
looks
should have
like-
got rid of your good IT guy.
I didn't just quit on us like that.
Who was that? I don't remember that.
Any idea, Tim? All I had left here, Mr. Hodge, I'm sorry, is, just the motion, essentially. I can't pull it up though. I can't do anything.
You would think if that good IT guy was in the room,
It was just,
it would tell you how to
push a
pull it
button and
up.
it would be fixed, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to come out of good IT guys.
I make a motion that we approve AFD 2302 Quaint Liam Dahor as a new AFD.
Do I have a second? No, Ms. Kilpatrick seconded that. Further discussion, and certainly not rushing it, but, I consider these to be the best part for the work week.
I just had a quick question. Any water on that property, streams?
There's
I
an,
couldn't really see.
yeah, there's an intermittent stream and, sorry, I can't pull that up.
There was a permanent.
Yeah, there's one perennial and one intermittent,
Okay.
one feeds directly into Oregon Lake, one is on downside of the dam of Oregon Lake. So there are two
There are about 5 streams on our property.
intermittent streams.
Okay.
Mostly. Separated. Unnamed intermittent streams, okay, so even more than, yeah.
I am a permanent stream and I am an intermittent stream.
One of each.
All
I
right,
like variety.
do we have other, concerns, questions, comments?
Can I ask a question? I think
Certainly.
you having, okay, if you have a property in, Ag Forestal District that has a stream on it and that you sort of depend on for your livestock, and somebody close to you decides they want to develop a piece of land that is going to use considerable amounts of water, possibly from your stream. Is there any sort of consideration as far as that is?
I have some thoughts, but I'm gonna refer to Mr. Overstreet. What I was gonna say was probably calling Roger Black and getting him to weigh in
That
on
would
it.
be the person to weigh in on,
You wanna,
certainly.
Mr. Roger Black.
Yeah.
On staff. What's his formal title?
erosion and soil control officer.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
And he is and he acts with the authority of not only the county, but the state. And so he can do stop work orders and require all kinds of diversion. I don't want to say what, he has a lot of authority in that position.
I
It
just
sounds
want-
like exactly what you're looking
I
for.
was just
Michelle.
wondering because of Green Springs, you know, the situation in Green Springs. Where they're kind of using the water around there for flying crossroads until they get the water supply. And that's a historic agricultural district, but it didn't seem to help them. I mean, I think they were trying to fight against the wells for a long time.
There was a lawsuit
Yes,
that went up the line in the state.
Okay,
I
well,
never read.
We
what
can
it
talk
was.
about that.
if y'all forgive me, I'm gonna pull it back to.
Yeah.
We got a motion on the table and I'm happy to entertain any additional thoughts and questions. Hearing none, then all in favor of approving this, Egg Forestville District as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Please let show a unanimous vote of the members present.
That was on the line. I could go either way.
Oh.
Yeah.
Zero.
Do we have other
Are you
business?
running for reelection someday?
Only if he has to. It's a dirty guy.
Right.
Do we have other business? I just have other business. Anything else that anyone would want to bring up? We meet very infrequently, I guess, maybe sporadically, but we don't meet regularly because they're just not, I wish there were more opportunities to do just this. Frankly, we meet more for limited requests to remove a few acres here and there. And those are generally hardship requests. Somebody's had a change in life. Their life circumstances and need to trim off 2 or 4 acres. And that, to my knowledge, we've recommended against one being approved, but it did get approved, but the rest of them we recommended approval of because it seemed like the circumstances warranted it.
Well, the risk of losing all the land to development, I'd rather lose 8 acres of 200 than to lose all 200.
It sometimes helped us on the renewal process and from releasing 2 to 4 acres, 5 acres. They didn't have the need in 5 years when it ran out to take it all out. And so when you say no, it does taint the water quite a bit for the renewal process.
I'll just add one last bit, and that is, if this is approved, this would be the 20th district. We currently have 19 districts. Not that that's relevant
Matching
whatsoever, but it's 20.
20 it is.
Ability to share any of those slides.
Absolutely.
Could I get you to send that to me? Because
Sure.
it's just like, I guess the board would, we'd have to have a vote on whether the board said, okay, we want to run a half-page ad that lets Fluvanna know that this exists. But certainly on my own side, I can put it on Facebook and so on, advertise out, for lack of a better term, that we did this. And a lot of these, Lake Monticello and Discussion and all these Facebook pages, I'd like to get it out there and share it, because there's probably people that just never thought about this, and that would, you never know, you could get that one person who has another 250 acres.
I was never aware of it until I received a phone call from Mrs. Morris.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect example, yeah.
Well,
People might not want to go conservation easement for what some other.
Right.
Right.
Frankly,
If you wouldn't mind forwarding that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
it's frankly a safety net for land use and it's also a club. You can't force the planning commission or the board to see it your way, but it's certainly something they must consider and it's a pretty big tool in the tool bag, so.
Yeah.
I think, sometimes my Irish has gotten up when there've been letters to the paper, usually from Lake Monticello, for instance, claiming that land use and conservation easements are driving up their properties. And I always feel like it would be nice to not only get the information out there, but to really articulate for people what the public benefits are. I mean, for me, it comes down to if you hunt, watch wildlife, eat, breathe air, and drink water, you should be in favor of this. Because you really have to unpack the benefits. And this is why it's public policy in Virginia and across the nation. But there is that misunderstanding that seems centered in the higher developed areas
So
about property.
I used to always call it come heres and from heres.
Yeah,
And it's typically been that the from heres were more concerned about development than the come heres. And a wonderful thing started happening really around, to me, I saw it happen around Garden Lane, the subdivision off Naylor.
sure.
Beginning of last year, well, it started the year before, where suddenly enough people became aware of that created what Friends of Rural Flavanna or whatever,
Say rural.
Play
Yeah.
rural Flavanna.
and suddenly there was tons of people involved and
Went out
engaged.
in for single
And-
census,
and
remember?
Tony O'Brien, and I'm sure he didn't mean the word, or mean this literal, but his point was taken recently on the whole Marina Point thing. He said, you know, the thing is, back when we did Colonial Circle, of all places, we only had like 2 people show up,
Yeah.
you know, at the board meeting. Well, it's almost, you know, like you woke the dragon. So my sense would be, and I hope it to be true, that less people today, or let's say it would be a very vocal few that would say, this land use thing is taken out of my pocket.
Yeah.
And my sense is that the majority are starting to go, we better do what we can to take care of this. And then the big blue tank over at Colonial Circle just kind of raise the bar on that one. So I think more citizens are starting to get to where they're more worried about preservation than a few tax dollars.
That's good.
They are,
That's good.
but there still is the misconception
Yeah.
out there that land use causes your taxes to be higher, when in reality it's the exact opposite.
Exactly.
I think there's also a misconception that farmers are wealthy people. And
Yes.
Yes.
a lot of the farmers I know
Exactly.
work a job full time in order to farm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. I follow up on Mr. Fairchild's thought. I was on the board for a while. And I worked very hard to try to get us away from the we and they.
Exactly.
You know, because they were at Lake Monticello when we were out in the county, and I go, it's not a we and a they, it's an us scenario, because we are all in this boat together. And we've made progress. I mean, we are in this county, so I won't belabor that, but we are us. We all work together.
Excellent.
And that, what I tell people frequently, because I've managed a land use program for one of the really, really good ladies in my office does, Lauren. And you know, the misconception, it costs everyone else money. Farmers by and large, it's really not even farmers anymore. People in land use, you know, are small. They're not necessarily wealthy. They're generational for the most part. You know, I have land because I got some from my parents who got it from their parents.
Right.
And what I will say to this is, people in the land use program pay their taxes. I know who's on the delinquent rolls. And if you take away a land use, which is a reduced tax program, but it's only reduced on the acres that have no development, just grass and trees. It doesn't cost Flavanna anything to have that grass and trees. We don't send any of them to school, we don't send the law enforcement out there, we don't send a rescue out there. The people that have land use pay the same taxes on that. You take a house, my house, put it to Lake Monticello, it's the exact same tax dollar. And my first, 3 acres to me, that's the same thing you pay if you're setting up at the subdivision at Colonial Circle when it's done. Only the undeveloped acres. And people in land use, if they had to pay full value, would have to sell some of their land. They're not wealthy necessarily, so instead of 400 acres, then y'all take 50 and subdivide it. Well, that's 100 houses, because if you do a by right plus the subdivision, you can do, you know,
You go the
house
opposite
per
way.
2 acres.
20 per 2 acres, so
Yes,
you get
1 per
25
25, excuse me.
minus
I
road,
missed
this one, yeah.
And so anyone that thinks a house pays for itself is mistaken. The average house would collect maybe $3,800 a year in taxes. But if you got two kids in that house and they go to school, what, $8,500, it's almost 9,000 now per child. And that doesn't include any core services, any mental health services, any of that kind of stuff. So every time you see a new rooftop, it costs the folks that were living here more out of your pocket because that one house doesn't pay for itself.
State of Virginia, on average, for every dollar in residential revenue,
Yeah.
tax revenue, it's $1.18 in expenses.
So
So call it 20%.
land use works, saves us that are in it some money, but it also saves the other landowners not in land use. It saves them some tax dollars. And we all benefit because of the rural character of the county, you know?
Mr. Sheridan, that is so cogent an argument. Have you ever thought of possibly writing it up and having it published in the Fluvanna Review? The simplicity of your words are so understandable, even I know what you're saying. Get it out there.
Yeah.
It's pretty well received, but,
No, it is received. It needs to be
Needs to be
distributed
said.
out there.
You need to be going to these community meetings.
well, I do, trust
And
me, I've been going for a while.
I've been
Be
saying what
on the
your-
agenda.
But it's, I just happen to know a lot of the math.
There's
We
one coming
occasionally
up
have
at Woodmont Show.
I won't belabor it, but, thank you. And, if somebody ever runs for commission revenue, I'm running this year unopposed. First question you ask them, what's your position on land use? If they waiver the least bit, take them to the curb.
That should be the first question for your supervisor too.
That's right. Other thing, any other business, we can sit and talk for five, and hearing none, then we're gonna adjourn the meeting. Thank y'all very much for being here.
Thank you.
And I'm happy to talk about land use. I think that's thing.
Thanks for that. That's
Mr. Overstreet, thank you very much.
Thank you, and I
look
see where I
forward to-
missed your, the intermittent stream that does indeed feed right into Boston Creek, which
Oh.
feeds right into Lake Monticello, so. There you go, one of the sources of the water for Lake Monticello.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Streets were important, because I had a neighbor
We'll
told me
update that for planning commissions.
one time, I asked him about who's related to who in Kent's Ford, and around the
Dry
drive.
the lake up.
He said, don't you know everybody in Fluvanna is related to everybody else? I said, why do you say that? He said, well, let's go back before you had the automobile. He said, the only chance you had of meeting somebody to get married was you had to be able. You had to ride a horse from your house to their house